We are on 11b4, but let's begin with the Mishnah one more time. The Mishnah says, met Kohen Gadol. If after the Gmadin, after the gavel comes down, the Kohen Gadol dies, says the Mishnah, there's no galut. Why? Because you already chayav galut. Then the guy dies, you didn't even go to galut, free, off. Because the ruling obligates you in galut, and the get out of jail free card is the guy dying. What if they did not bang down the gavel? They're going through the court case, but they didn't give the final psak halacha yet. What's halacha? And so the guy dies before the gavel. Now after the gavel comes down, they appoint somebody else. And then afterwards, his gmar din happens. He only gets out when the second person dies. What happens if there's an interim position where they finish the court case and there's no Kohen Gadol that's appointed? Or another case, what if a person who kills a Kohen Gadol? Or the Kohen Gadol sheharag. So when you kill the Kohen Gadol, as you kill the guy, there's no Kohen Gadol for you to get out from. Or Kohen Gadol sheharag, or Kohen Gadol himself who kills somebody else. Eno yoseh misham le'olam. He never ever leaves the city of refuge ever. Okay?
Can we go through that again? I'm not.
Okay, so 3 cases.
No, I know the first 2.
Okay.
The third one.
Third one is new case. We'll have to see why. If the Kohen Gadol is the killer himself, he does not have the gift of a Kohen Gadol getting him out of Galut. And we'll see why. Okay, but we're not there yet.
One more
Yeah.
case.
Go ahead.
You got 7 retired Kohanim Gadolim at the retirement home. Murder happens, but there's no alive Kohen Gadol when the gavel comes down. No incumbent Kohen Gadol, but 7 retired guys. Normally, if one of the 7 retired guys dies, the person is released from.
Yeah.
So your case is, gavel comes down, no Kohen Gadol alive, and no retired Kohen Gadol.
Nobody. None of that. No.
But had there been 7 retired guys, he could still.
Why are you married to 7 retired guys?
One.
Okay, so in other words, yeah, anyone. Or any of the other ones in the Mishnah that we had before. The appointed, the clothing, the military, according to the last opinion, correct.
So no one is alive.
Nobody is alive at that point, right? So then the halakha would be, okay. I was trying to figure out, I thought that you had a reason why you were going with 7. Okay. Says the Gemara, so the first 2 fall under the purview of our conversation, right? Do we count the guy, Kohen Gadol, from at what point? When does he get him out? Now we just hit a whole new road bump. If a Kohen Gadol himself murders, then there's no why. Maybe count somebody else. Also, the first 2 cases we understand. What in the last case, when the Kohen Gadol is a murderer, are we also talking where there are no other Kohen Gadolim? On the first ones, we're saying because you don't have a Kohen Gadol to die for you. The first 2 cases. The last one, when the Kohen Gadol is a murderer, are we excluding him from ever having a get out of jail free card, irrespective of whether there are the other versions of Kohen Gadol? So we discussed other versions of Kohen Gadol that get you out of jail free. What are they? The guy who was not anointed, but the guy who had extra clothing. The understudy that got promoted. And then one last opinion in the Gemara was if there was someone who was anointed for the military. The Kohen Mashuach Milchama. Okay? So do those rules apply also to this last chidush of the Kohen Gadol murderer? Okay.
In this case, you've got a Kohen Gadol who's karov to himself, and thus there is no Kohen Gadol alive who's not untainted when.
Karov would not be relevant here, because it's not witnessing. That's the problem. The only she'ela is, does he count? Ahlan. The only question is, does he count? But again, we don't know yet why or where this law came from. That a Kohen Gadol who is a murderer should should never have a way out. We haven't figured that out yet. Okay.
He gets out when he dies.
Yes, okay, yeah, that would be, he would be able to leave when he dies, correct. The end of Yotzeh, says the Mishnah. Then he doesn't leave. Lo le'edut mitzvah, lo le'edut mamon, lo le'edut nefashot. Not for testimony, for any reason. Not for a mitzvah like the Kiddush HaChodesh. Not for mamon if he has witnesses about money that was borrowed or spent or lost or whatever. Not for witnessing even a dinei nefashot, even if someone's going to die. If he leaves, halakha is he's not allowed to leave for any reason to give testimony from the Ir Miklat. Even if there's ever a reason why the Jewish people need him to leave. So it's not a personal reason or the need of an individual, none of that. What if the guy is so important to the Jewish people, and the Mishnah actually brings a case, like the general Yoav ben Syria. Who is that? He's the general of
Army.
David HaMelech, okay? But specifically, King David, huh? What? In Haftarah, yes. So he's a person who Am Yisrael needed desperately, because remember, during the time of King David, they were fighting against foreign forces. The Pelishtim at the time were dominant and harming the Jews. So Yoav ben Syria was the one that was fighting them back. I always thought how beautiful it is to realize that Yoav ben Syria conquers on behalf of David HaMelech. What does he conquer? Syria. And a very popular Syrian name is Seruya. This is where it comes from. To understand that piece of history, just like flicking right down through thousands of years of history.
Crazy.
Isn't that wild?
It's like you spoke about Tawil.
And there's no other, you never heard of a Seruya coming from Lithuania. Yeah.
From last week that you talked about.
Sorry? Tawil, exactly. So we had two versions of that. Also, the concept of Eli Cohen. Okay, says the Gemara. That one's even older because Eli Cohen was the rabbi of Shmuel, who was the rabbi of David. Okay, so that one's even older by 2 generations. Says the Gemara, you don't leave. You run to that place. What does Shama mean? Shama means Sham te dirato. That's where you live. Sham te mitato. That's where you die. Sham te kvurato. That's where you're going to be buried. Fascinating, because then you don't even leave, says the Gemara, even to be buried. They don't bury him outside of the Ir Miklat if he dies during the time of the Kohen Gadol. So your earlier joke is actually untrue.
Yeah. You never leave.
It only hit me right now.
It hit me when I
because he hit the joke. He said, he goes out when he dies, but he doesn't. Even when he dies, he doesn't go out. He'll be buried there. Okay, says the Gemara. Kishem sha'ir koletet, just like the city itself absorbs, it forgives you. It's like home base, and you're untouchable. Kach techuma kolet. So too does the tchum of the city kolet. So everyone always thinks, okay, where do you need to get to? The city limits. Okay, says the Mishnah, true. But what are the city limits? Not the inner limits, but the outer city limits. What are those? You ever hear those words before? The outer city limits?
The land that's outside for the...
Excellent. Outside of the land of every city, they would have farms, they would have planting, okay? That tchum, which was either 2,000 or 3,000 feet outside of the city, all that was considered to be the tchum of the city. So you get even to the tchum of the city also gives you protection. Tchum means the border, like the range of the outer range of the city.
It's 2,000 feet being like a quarter mile
Amot,
straight.
amot, not feet.
Around, must be around.
Amot, circular, yeah. Well, not circular because the city is not a circle, right?
But it's
You
around
walk
the
out-
city.
It's around the city,
You
so
walk
not a
out
circle,
2,000,
but perimeter.
You walk out 2,000 amot and then you make a circle?
In any direction. No circles.
Circles.
Imagine a rectangle. So it's not a circle. So it's however exactly tchum 2,000 amot this way. Except that there's one opinion that says 3,000 amot. So it's either 2,000 or 3,000 amot. Assuming it's 2,000, it's exactly the same idea as tchum Shabbat. Okay. Assuming it's 3,000, it's not exactly the same idea as tchum Shabbat. Okay. Says the Mishnah. The Mishnah continues. This is a halakha that we've been kind of abutting for the last 2 months, okay, month and a half. Let's say the guy does leave. And the goel adam finds him outside of the tchum that he was not allowed to leave. Yossi Aglili says mitzvah bi'ar goel adam, reshut bi'ar kol adam. There's a mitzvah to kill him for the goel adam. So if the guy is sitting there doing whatever he's doing, what would we tell him? Get up, kill the guy. Mitzvah. The guy would have to do that if he was, If he was doing the mitzvah of killing the guy, another mitzvah came, what would we tell him? Osek mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. He's trying to kill the guy and they tell him, it's time to shake the lulav. No. I'm already in the middle. I'm doing mitzvah now.
Sorry, I gotta kill the guy.
Sorry, I gotta kill the guy. Higiyaz Makirat Shema. Sorry, relax. Relax, students in the Haggadah. Yeah.
Goel Adam is on everyone?
Oh, so here's the question. Goel Adam literally means the redeemer of the blood. So we'll see that in just 1 second. The Goel Adam means the person's relatives, general. In the general terminology, Goel Adam means the relatives. We'll see in just a second what that means.
This is in
However,
opposition to what we learned 2 weeks ago when you have the two rabbis walking with the accused murderer.
That's when they're going to.
on the way to. Here's when he left.
But I said it's in opposition.
Oh, yes. Not in opposition to the halakha. Yes, okay.
It's
Yes.
a counter.
To the on the way. Why? Because on the way, what was he supposed to do? But by the way, they're still trying to convince him not to. On the other side, there's no convincing not to.
Right, they're just trying to convince
Okay?
him to do it.
What would be the logic?
The logic?
He's not guilty yet.
What do you mean? No, he is guilty at that point. The logic of the difference is they try to convince him just because you're allowed to kill him. Understand he didn't mean to do it.
He's remorseful.
There's nothing that they could. At that point, there was nothing that he did beyond the mistake that he made that would make you want to kill him. So the rabbis come to tell him, look, he made that mistake. Maybe you should relax. Maybe don't do it. Maybe he's on his way. He's going to get penance. He's now going to exile. Here the guy went out for a Yankee game.
Yeah.
Or even, and this is to me is unbelievable. If you're Yoav ben Tzruya, hold on a second. You're Yoav ben Tzruya. Yoav ben Tzruya is literally life or death, not for himself, for the whole Jewish people.
He's not allowed to say.
You're going to tell me, the Mishnah is saying it. You're going to tell me that this guy, the Jewish people need to die, and this guy don't leave?
We need him for the
Hold on a second. Let me make it worse. Let's say, Joan, you're a casual observer. Yoav ben Tzruya is stuck in this place. We need him to leave. This guy now is causing him to stay because he's a Goel Adam. I would even think
kill the Goel Adam.
we should kill the Goel Adam.
Who's a person-
We, as the Jewish people, should consider him a Rodef of the whole Jewish nation. The answer is, we're seeing over here is that it's not the Goel Hadam that keeps him in. It's the halacha that keeps him in. It's the Torah's obligation is what keeps him locked in. Not the Goel Hadam threatening to murder him.
So he's not the Rodef.
He's not the Rodef.
Technically, the halacha is.
Correct.
Well, once he walks
Yeah.
out of the Tchum, is the Goel Hadam the
free game.
Rodef of Yoav ben Tzruya?
No. So long as it's a mitzvah, how can he be a Rodef?
So you say mitzvah precludes Rodef.
I would assume so. Yeah. Okay. So says the Mishnah. Wow. Welcome.
Continue, Rabbi, continue.
Fantastic to see you here. This is Tzaddik. I see you makpid for the Mekubalim. 49 days.
I don't have a shaver here. That's
Okay, my friends. So, Rotzeach she'atzah chutz letchum atzah goel adam. The halacha is, Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, it's a mitzvah for him to kill. Reshut biad kol adam. Joan is the goel adam. Stanley sees the guy went out for the Yankee game. Stanley's allowed to kill him.
on behalf of me.
Not on behalf of anybody. Rashai, allowed. You're a murderer.
Everyone becomes a Goel Adam.
Everyone has permission.
It's like the purge.
This guy has a mitzvah. Had that? It's like that short story, The Most Dangerous Game. Okay? Everyone is now, you know what we used to have in the Looney Tunes? Wabbit season. Yeah, duck season, wabbit. This is, accidental murder, go kill him. Fadda. You're welcome to do it. Rishut biyado.
Doesn't that seem like a hazard for the public?
I don't think he knows that.
Yes, it does.
No, think about it. Everyone's fighting over the mitzvah to kill this guy. So you have
only mitzvah
the
for
entire
Throwing,
city
no, it's not a
One
mitzvah.
guy.
Permission. They're allowed, no
Permission.
mitzvah.
So only
This
Goel
guy
Adam-
only has a mitzvah.
Only
Okay.
Goel Adam. So the Goel Adam is
got it.
designated even among the family. Is
Oh, excellent question. Okay, we'll come back to that in just 1 second. Rabbi Akiva says, no, he's one notch down on the ladder. Rishut biad goel adam. The goel adam, he's allowed to kill him. Okay, allowed. V'chol adam chayavin alav. And everybody else, chayavin alav. They are, if they kill this guy, since they're not allowed to kill him, they get the death penalty for killing him.
So Rabbi Akiva is taking a totally different tack. It's not a mitzvah. It's
Correct.
permissible.
So the mitzvah is not in the equation.
How could it be
So it's,
permissible and not
what they call that is nachit chad darga. He's one step lower on the ladder. So this guy is mitzvah permission. He's permission, death penalty.
But that doesn't make sense to me. How could it be permissible but not a mitzvah? Like, it's permissible to kill somebody even though it's not a mitzvah? For what reason?
Good question. So let's try and understand what it's talking about over here. So,
I flew away.
Depends for what.
So let's just go revisit and we'll tackle Doron's question. Doron asks, who's the Goel Adam? So there's a machloket in the poskim exactly how we understand who the Goel Adam is. One opinion is Goel Adam is one person, only one guy. Imagine you kill Hazi, you kill some guy, Haredi guy has 97 relatives, 422 grandchildren, right? Everyone's with pitchforks, it's, that's what you have in your mind. But really, according to one opinion, it's no. The Goel Adam is the closest, the one who's going to inherit him. Do you remember in the story of Ruth HaMoabiyah? We're going to read it in just a little bit on Shavuot, right? So the question arises, who's going to marry Ruth HaMoabiyah? So she comes to Boaz and she says, you're our relative. What does Boaz tell her? True, but there's someone closer than me. So we got to go square it off with him. So he calls this guy, Ploni Almoni, and he tells him, listen, you want to redeem the field? Of what's it called? Of Machlon Mechilion. He says, yes, I do. He says, okay, but when you redeem the fields, you also have to marry the wife, Ruth HaMoabiyah. He kindly says, well, listen, I'm not sure. I don't know if I have the cash.
My wife may not agree.
Exactly. My wife may not agree. He says, Shema ashchit et nachalati. Maybe I will destroy my inheritance. Why did he say no? Because at the time they thought, the Pasuk says, Amon, Moav, Amon Moavi, lo yavo b'toch hakahal. Someone from Ammon and Moab cannot marry into the community. Right? Pasuk in the Torah. So she's from where? Ruth Moabiyah, not allowed. Boaz knows the halakha, and Boaz says no. Ammon velo Ammonit, Moab velo Moabiyah. Only the males were precluded from marrying into Jewish people, not the females. So pen ashchit et nachalati means maybe I'll destroy my nachala. He didn't mean his fields. He means I'm going to destroy my portion in the Jewish people. I'm marrying. I'm marrying out. Okay. So
didn't Boaz disabuse him of that wrong interpretation of the halacha?
He did, but it wasn't. He didn't accept it. He didn't. It wasn't something that they remembered. This halacha. So Boaz, who was one of the heads of Sanhedrin, right? He was the one that reminded him of the halacha. Fascinating as well. Boaz goes through this whole charade, winds up marrying Ruth, dies the next day. But on the night before he died, he had relations with Ruth HaMoabiyah, and she becomes pregnant from Boaz on the one day that they're married, and that results in David HaMelech and Mashiach.
You said the reason that guy becomes, you said in the class once that
Yeah.
he's Ploni forever. So he missed the opportunity to step up.
Yeah, he's nameless, faceless. Nameless, faceless. Machloket, if his name Ploni Almoni, which we use as Jane Doe, is a John Doe, Jane Doe situation, or if that name became the standard of John Doe, Jane Doe as a nameless, faceless person because of the story. So either it was his name, but now we use it to mean the guy who has no name, no purpose, no nothing, or it wasn't his name, but this is how we give him the witness protection program. Okay, let's go. So we have two opinions. Okay, the first opinion is the closest relative. According to that opinion, the only person that's included in this halacha, either according to the first opinion, Rabbi Yossi, mitzvah to kill, or according to the second opinion, Rabbi Akiva, reshut to kill. Okay, one guy. What happens when that guy dies?
Next in line.
Next in line. Like the Knicks, next man up until the last game. We had no man left. Okay?
Huh? Or the big brother or?
So it's the next person to be Yoresh.
The father, let's say the father is old.
Doesn't matter.
So be the.
Doesn't matter. No, it would still go to the father. Assuming the next in line would be the father, according to that opinion, there's one Goel Adam, and that's the one that has either these two halachot apply to him, Rabbi Yossi or Rabbi Akiva. The second opinion says no. It means the Yoresh, the one that's Ra'ui to be Yoresh. Not the one that inherits him, literally, but rather the one that is fit to inherit him. So what do you mean? Doesn't that a lot of people? In fact, the Gemara says, it's a Mefurash Gemara Yesh Nochlin. The Gemara says a person, any Jewish person, there's no such thing as a Jew that doesn't have an inheritor.
What about the daughters of?
It doesn't matter. No, that doesn't mean that means he doesn't have a male inheritor. Every single Jew has a male inheritor, because if it doesn't go down, it goes back up. So if it don't go down, no, but it goes back up. So who's someone who has no relatives?
A convert.
So that's it from the Jewish people. If you're a convert, you're disconnected. But you're right, because you're brand new, you're a new creation. But if a person was part of the Jewish people, there's no person who's part of the Jewish people where it doesn't go back up and then just redistribute somewhere else. Right? That's what the Gemara asks. How could there ever be a scenario where because the Gemara discusses scenarios where there's ownerless land or ownerless property. The Gemara says, how could there ever be a case like that? And the Gemara answers, one of the answers is convert or something that was set aside or hefker or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, coming back here. So, according to this opinion, Ra'ui to inherit does not mean anyone that would inherit. It means that's Ra'ui to inherit, which means the 6 closest people around him. Okay? So father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter. Okay, those are the people that are around the immediate people. What do you mean? Aren't all these people Ra'ui to inherit? Yes, they are. But they're not inheriting him. You understand?
Yeah.
So let's say we did this. What do you mean? The guy's inheriting him. Yep, no. His father inherited him. I inherited my father. So you're not Ra'ui to inherit me. The ones that are inheriting him is that box around him of those 6 relatives. According to that opinion, all 6 of the relatives are included in the Goel Adam halacha. So you could have your scenario.
From day one?
Yeah.
Not second.
According to that second opinion, right? Goel Adam means the one who redeems him, the one who's a redeemer. Who's the redeemer? According to the second opinion, these 6 people. So we have 2 opinions. One is 1, one is 6. But nobody holds that anyone is able to do so. Yes.
What about the 3 women that are part of the 6?
What do you mean?
Are they allowed to be there?
What do you mean the what? I said the mother and the sister.
I'm asking.
Yeah, yes, they are.
Often mitzvot sometimes do
On a
not
mitzvah.
include women.
So
Yeah, here they are. Here they are.
according to Rabbi Kiva,
That's also time bound. Yes,
these
what?
6, according to Rabbi Kiva, these 6, they're not liable for death if they kill, because they would be considered to be the Goel Hadam.
Forget liable for death. It's a mitzvah.
It's a mitzvah for
Not
them.
according to
According to Rabbi Yossi. According to Rabbi Akiva. It's reshut, permission.
The 6 of them.
Yeah.
But the next guy, the next Jewish person, he would be liable for
The next guy would be death penalty.
death penalty. Got it.
Okay? Now, hold on a second. This is fascinating. Okay, and this, I mean, I don't know if we'll have more time on this, but hopefully we will. What's fascinating is that there's 2 opinions, 2 representations of the Girsa in the Mishnah. The last thing we read was, Chol Adam Chayavin Alav. Everyone else is obligated death penalty, which, by the way, that's the logic. If you're obligated, if you have a mitzvah to kill him, or you're allowed to kill him because the Torah gave you leeway to, fine. But if the Torah did not give you leeway to, you're killing somebody. Why would you not get a chayav mitah? The other opinion has the Mishnah as saying, and anybody else, en chayavin alav.
Wow, that becomes.
Anyone can kill him.
No, that
How could that be? So again, we're going with the Girsa that we just read, which is, 1-1, Rabbi Akiva, 1-1. That's how we understand it, okay? Goel Adam mitzvah, reshut for everybody else. Second opinion, Rabbi Akiva, reshut for the Goel Adam, everybody else, death penalty. It's a different Girsa in the Mishnah.
The first part,
So-
anybody can kill.
Different Girsa in the Mishnah. Girsa means a different text that they had in the Mishnah, and it's not like one incorrect text. Many of the Mefarshim, the Rishonim, had this Girsa. So how are we going to understand En Chayiv Halav that they're not obligated? How can we understand that?
Why is it
And
different
also,
Girsa? It's right in here.
sorry,
Reshut b'yad kol adam, and it's permissible for anyone else to do so.
what do you mean?
It's in the text.
Yeah,
Why is it a
Other people have
different?
No. In the second opinion, chol adam en chayavin alav.
It adds the word in.
En.
You don't have that.
We don't have this text. I'm just saying that there is another version
Got it.
of Rabbi Akiva's opinion. So how do you understand that version of Rabbi Akiva? The chol adam en chayavin alav. Everybody else, there's no hayav on it. How do you understand that?
Has the first version and not the second.
Who?
Rabbi Akiva.
No. The versions are in Rabbi Akiva.
Both versions.
Both versions. Rabbi Akiva says, and everybody else, the way we have our Mishnah, chayavin alav. They get the death penalty if they kill him. The second opinion says that the language in Rabbi Akiva was, and everybody else, en chayavin alav. Now the problem is, what do you mean? The family themselves, you're telling me, is only reshut. They don't have a mitzvah. So only they're allowed to kill him. When you say everybody else, en chayavin alav, then they're the same as the family. If you say they're reshut, everybody else, death penalty, that's the difference. If you say the family is reshut, then everybody else is, nothing happens to them if they kill him, that's reshut means, that's what it means.
Holding by the family thing?
Sorry?
Is he holding by the family the six that they shoot?
Is who holding?
Rabbi Akiva.
Rabbi Akiva, I think we're confused, 1 minute. Rabbi Akiva says the following words, family reshut, we don't know what the second thing Rabbi Akiva says is.
But what's his definition of family?
Family is goel adam, either 6 or 1.
Six, that's what I just
No,
asked.
but that's not a question in Rabbi Akiva. That's in the words goel adam. So regardless if you're in Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yossi, right, whichever way, it's either 6 or 1, and then the machloket Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi would be, what do we say to the 1 or what do we say to the 6? Yeah?
I was asking whether or not we could, maybe Rabbi Akiva, given that different Gersa, was expanding the 6 to something else. But you said no.
No, you know why? Because this says kol adam. If he would say a language like the hashar or the rest, he says kol adam means everybody. Okay? So in Rabbi Akiva, this is how they explain. That Gersa is fascinating. Everybody else has reshut to kill him. Now, not a mitzvah, but they have reshut. That means if they want, they're allowed. Everybody else is not allowed. But if you kill them, there's no punishment of death.
How does it make sense?
It's like lechatchila b'di'evet.
That's a
We allowed everybody else to kill him, but everybody else in chayvin alav. Now, what would the logic be for that? And this is fascinating. Sorry? Very similar. Bar Katala is not a language in the Pasuk, but the language in the Pasuk says, en lo dam. The family, the goel adam, is allowed to kill him, en lo dam. He has no blood. Indicating like he's a dead man walking. You can't, we're telling you not to do this.
Kill someone who's been killed.
Exactly. It's just like a guy who already had a death penalty issued against him. And he's being taken out.
Case?
We had that case.
Right.
You killed that guy on the way to his execution.
No
Are you allowed to?
No.
No.
But there's no
But if I did, I didn't kill a live guy.
But there was
I killed a
still
dead guy.
punishment b'yedei shamayim, no?
Yes, they would still be punished with Deshamayim.
Right.
But in this case, we say, V'chol Adam, en chayavin alav, you would not be killed for the action. So we have 2 girsaot in Rabbi Akiva, one which is quite straightforward, the other one which is very interesting, okay? But remember, Rabbi Yossi is really going one step further. Rabbi Yossi said that everybody else, not only b'di'eved, if they kill him, they don't get punished, reshut bi'adam, they're allowed. So we would understand Rabbi Yossi also going with the same logic. The guy is en lo damim, so he's an accidental murder. We want to up the stakes. We want people to be careful not to kill somebody.
To be a guy and don't know damim and go to Ir Miklat.
What do you mean?
I thought the idea that if the punishment is not going to redeem him, there's not going to send him to Ir Miklat anyway.
Yeah, why is he a dead man walking if,
If he's
can go
going
in
to
the clock?
death, why would he go to Ir Miklat?
You're asking a very good question, but that's not a question to ask me or Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yossi. It's a question to ask God. Because the Pasuk says that the guy who goes to Galut, right, the family, if he leaves, the family is allowed to kill him. And now we say also, en lo dam, means he has no blood. Now, again, remember, the simple version of the Pasuk is en lo dam for the family. Not en lo dam, hunting season.
Right.
But you see, both Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva are extending it. The only question is, what are the limitations of that extension? Okay, let's see the Gemara. We only have about 4-5 minutes left. Says the Gemara.
Scary to be that guy.
Yeah, Annie, right? Maitama. Says the Gemara. Maitama. What's the reason? Now, we're going back now on the beginning of the Mishnah, okay? Amar Abaye says Kal V'chomer. We have a Kal V'chomer. Ma mi shegala kvar yotzei achshav. If someone that already went into Galut, right, goes out now with the death of the Kohen Gadol, mi shelo gala, someone that did not yet go to Galut, eno din shelo yigale. Isn't there a Kal V'chomer that the guy should not go into Galut? In other words, what's harder, to get someone from Galut out of Galut, or to get someone off going to Galut? It's always easier to get someone off of a punishment than to get them out of the punishment that's already been rendered. So if it could get him out of a punishment that's already been fulfilled, i.e., he went to Galut, if he never went to Galut, it's even easier. I don't understand this Kal V'chomer. Someone ask? The Gemara's question is obvious. It's just simple logic. Yeah, that's a good Kal V'chomer, except for the fact, if you did the crime, you got to do the time. The guy who at least he went to the Galut, he did some time. That's why he gets out from the Kohen Gadol. But the guy who never did the time, maybe he doesn't get out because there was no kapara. Exactly Gemara's question. V'dilma haydigala ichparle. Maybe the reason why he gets kapara when the guy Kohen Gadol dies is because he actually went and he served part of his sentence. This guy, the lo gala, he never served any time. He should not get off. Gemara says. Sorry?
It's in his head that I'm going to have to be there tomorrow and for the rest of my life until someone dies. So he's already...
But you're saying a chidush. In other words, the Kal V'chomer needs to be watertight. You need to be able to say, well, if this is the halacha over here, how much more so over here? So you're suggesting, and the question on that is, it's not watertight. You know why? Because at least there he had some kapara. So you can't make the Kal V'chomer. So your answer is, well, maybe psychological kapara is also kapara. Right? But you have to prove that, okay? Says the Gemara, Midi galut ka mechapra, mitat kohenu de mechapra. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? This is fascinating question. Answer the Gemara. Midi galut ka mechapra. Is the galut that which brings kapara? The mitat kohenu de mechapra. The mitah of the kohen is what gets kapara. So therefore, in either scenario, whether he started serving the sentence, didn't start serving the sentence, he didn't get kapara. And therefore, there's no difference between the two. The question is, what does that mean? We already said many times that the galut itself also brings kapara, right? So what is the Gemara over here saying that it does not bring the kapara? What does that mean?
You need the Kohen Gadol to die also.
You need the Kohen Gadol to die in order to get him out.
To get the full atonement.
To get the full atonement, there you go. Okay. So the Gemara doesn't mean that it's not the galut that gives kapara. Because we've seen already many times that the galut is what gets the guy kapara. And we even had the idea that if he's too legit in his murdering, then we're not going to let him die because it's not enough kapara. So the kapara was not the Kohen Gadol, it was the galut. The answer is the full kapara is the Kohen Gadol and the galut together. So in order to ask the question on the Kal V'chomer, you would need it to be a zero-sum game. You can't say it's a little bit worse, or it's a little bit better, or it's a little bit, different. Says the Gemara, if the Kohen Gadol dies before the gavel comes down, okay? What do we say in that case?
No galut.
Right, and then they appointed a second Kohen Gadol. No, if he dies before the gavel comes down,
Then he's stuck.
he goes into Galut. Now they appointed a second Kohen Gadol until the second Kohen Gadol dies.
Right.
Okay, but not forever. Okay, Gemara says, how do I know that this is the halakha? That he has to wait for the second one, and he doesn't get out with the death of the first one because it's after the act, even though it's not after the ruling. Amar Rav Kana says, the Amar Kra, because Pasuk says, "V'yashav ba admot Kohen Gadol shemashach oto b'shem hakodesh," and he sits in it until the Kohen Gadol dies. V'chi hu moshcho asher mashach oto. Did the killer? Did he anoint the Kohen Gadol? What does it mean? Asher mashach oto. V'chi hu moshcho ela. What does it mean? Ze shenimshach biyamav. The one that was anointed, or the one that was appointed in your days. Right now, still, even though the Kohen Gadol that was anointed came after the act of his murder, since it's still in his days, still the death of the second Kohen Gadol would get him out of exile. Okay? Says the Gemara, I don't understand. What does this mean? What should the Kohen Gadol have done? Right? What should the Kohen Gadol have done to protect him? Why are we tying this to the death of the Kohen Gadol? The Gemara answers like we already saw a few times. The Kohen Gadol, when the Kohen Gadol was in place for the murder, he should have prayed that no accidental murder should happen. Okay? Like we saw the Kohen Gadol. We saw the Kohen Gadol. There's a new setting on the iPhone.
Yeah, falling like
When the Kohen Gadol was in place, when you killed, we say it's your fault. Why? Because you should have prayed that no accidental murder should have happened. Where do we see an example of that? When the Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh HaKodashim on Yom Kippurim, what does he say? Shelo tapil isha bitna, that a woman should not have a miscarriage. He's praying for even things that are not, not part of it. Even an accident, he could pray that accident shouldn't happen. So he should have prayed that no accidental murder should happen. So the accidental murder that happened on his watch, like we saw already earlier, about Eliyahu Hanavi not visiting him for 3 days, that's on the Kohen Gadol. The Gemara asked, what do you mean? This guy, when was he appointed? He was appointed after the murder. What could he have done? The Gemara answers, he should have prayed that the Gemara Din should go the Zechut, should exonerate the guy. Again, very hard to understand this.
No, why should he pray
Why
for an
would
error of
this-
judgment?
What does that mean? He should pray for a miscarriage of justice?
What?
What does that mean?
Batting practice. He had to practice to become the Kohen. His mindset already has to be there if he's next in kin.
So the answer is, Yigmor Dino Lezachut doesn't mean that they should get the ruling wrong. There are many things that could render the case moot. I don't want to say mem vav taf moot, but there's many things that could render the case dead. And one of those things, any one of those things could have been, like, I'll give you a perfect example. We have a halakha, a strange halakha, that says that if everyone rules guilty in a murder trial, what happens?
Thrown out.
The case gets thrown out. There had to be somebody who could see something. So the Kohen Gadol's tefillah would be that every one of the people should see his guilt. And that would actually, what would that have resulted in? Exoneration. So not that they should get the case wrong, but there should be something that would get this person out of that punishment. That's what the fault of the Kohen Gadol is. Okay. Finally, the Gemara says, so therefore, lo bikesh, and since he did not ask, that's enough to say that we tie the getting out of jail to his death. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.